my name's Luke Parker and this is a Bracebridge engineering video channel, and in this video we're going to be talking about samples. More importantly, what samples can I have? Can I have samples? And how do we go about making them? So the first basic important factor to make is yes, we can make samples, and also no, we can't. It's a bit of a funny conundrum, but there's a number of factors in the reasons why we can make samples and the number of reasons why we can't make samples. And I'd like to basically go into those. I've got a few notes down here that I'll refer to. So basically we'll get into the first sort of part. What is a sample? Well, it's basically whatever part that you're making. You want to see a physical representation of the drawing you may send in or idea you have, and obviously to see a sample of physical thing you can touch and feel is going to be beneficial to you and your company and obviously the project you're working on. The problem lies in terms of making samples is obviously as press workers we need tooling to make that. Certain industries such as laser cutting industries for example, they can make a sample out of, as long as they've got material. There's no physical tooling or anything needed to be made in most cases to produce a sample, but with press work we can't make samples out of nothing, so generally it means there's a commitment in tooling of some form or another. We do offer here a little sort of slight variation you may have seen in some of the other videos, some 3D printed parts. Now we will, if we have the drawing, do some 3D printed parts. So this is a little bracket that we printed off for someone, sent into the customer so he can touch and feel it. A deep drawn little cup as well. We made that in half size just for them to look at, and we've got some other more obscure sorts of things and even little clips as well. So that's something that can go a long way in terms of giving you a feel, an idea of your product. But in terms of real life parts made out of steel, aluminium, stainless, whatever your material is, to pass quality checks and go through onto the stages further down in your production and your process improvement, then we need tooling. So there's a number of ways we can go around that. Obviously, if you've got things like prototype sample and what have we got here, prototype build samples, then that's a different matter to production samples, because obviously we'd have probably had an order from you if we were going to make the production samples. Therefore, as soon as the tooling's in, we run a number of samples, and that can be 1, 2, 3, 500, depending on how many samples you require for your particular process. Those are no problem because obviously we have the tooling to carry on with that. The problem lies is the prototype productions. Before we've committed to an order, before we've committed to the job, how do we go about making samples? Now, we can do in some certain instances where the tooling's simple, but if it's a complex part, then usually what we do is we refer you to a prototyping company who specialise in prototypes. They would give you no tooling or very little tooling cost, usually made out of soft tooling, but there'd be a much higher part cost because obviously their tooling element is built into that cost. And that's the way of getting true prototypes. But again, in terms of you wanting basically a representation of what you're going to get in production, the only way to do it is commit to tooling, because obviously the pre-production parts or prototype parts made in a different way is going to be slightly different looking than in characteristics, tolerances, all sorts of things, than actually what's going to come off a production tool. But certainly once we have an order commitment, then we can make samples. Like I say, we'll do our best generally to make 3D printed parts or illustrations or mock-ups, but obviously in terms of getting the actual part, then really we need tooling, and that's always a bit of a conundrum. We did have an inquiry a while ago where the customer wanted samples but didn't want to pay for tooling, and we went round and round and round in circles, and in the end it went nowhere because they basically wanted something for nothing, and we weren't going to spend, I think it was several hundred thousand, well, even £100,000 worth of tooling to get this part with no commitment. So yeah, it's got to be sort of taken into consideration. So where are we at? We're at about 4 minutes, that's okay. I didn't want to go on too long, it's only a little short video today. So that's really in a nutshell how we deal with samples. Yes, by all means we'll always try and get you samples. We'll show you exactly what we intend on making. Obviously if we've got tooling commitment, then that's okay. Other factors to take into consideration, obviously, is just the complexity of the part. If it's a flat metal plate, of course, you know, we may be able to use another service like laser cutting or something, get you a representation of the part, maybe a combination of different manufacturing methods. We can even get cylindrical parts spun. We've mentioned spinning before in other videos, how that can complement our business as well. So we can use all different methods of manufacture. Won't necessarily be the same manufacturing processes you're going to get in production, but at least we'll give you a physical part. We're doing a part at the minute that involves some quite high grade aluminium, and we 3D printed the parts so that the customer can touch and feel and look at it. He's made his own mock-up parts, but he understands that obviously the tooling's got to be made, and again adjusted if it needs to be, to make sure that he gets the right part in the end. But these are some of the things that are coming online. Obviously now as we go forward into the future, as 3D metal printing, there's all sorts of things, and obviously a certain amount of fabrication we can do in the tool room to get samples. So there's all sorts of methods, and I'm sure that'll improve as time goes on as well. But in terms of getting exactly the same part with tolerances and everything, you really need the real McCoy and the tooling. Tooling's always a thing to get over with it in terms of the initial investment, but once you have that, you'll have a tool that will make many thousands of parts. So I hope that's been useful for you if you're thinking about samples or looking to get samples. Have a think about that, and if there's got any other questions, feel free to drop us an email or write a comment in the box below. Don't forget us to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at bbepressings.co.uk. Is our website as well. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll speak to you again soon. Bye now.